Y'all already know by the title of this video that the tea is really hot with this one. This isn't even tea and it's not hot, it's coffee that's been sat here for about an hour and it's actually very cold, but you know, the premise is still there. Hi guys, so today I'm filming a video that I've literally never filmed before. I'm filming a storytime video and there's about to be a lot of tea. I've got boiling hot tea, I've got receipts, I've got it all guys, I've got it all. I remember when like story times were like a massive thing, probably like a couple of years ago now, and I was like, people have such interesting lives. I could never film a story time. Like, my life is so boring. I've never had enough drama happen to me. My life's not interesting enough. But the past year my life has been very interesting, and not in the good way. So as you can tell by the title of this video, today we're going to be talking about my second year uni housemates that I lived with, that I had to endure for a whole year. Wow, I know the drama's hot, but you know, relax. I'm just gonna kind of give you some context. So if you guys watched my first year university experience video, I have it linked in the video, then you know that we were one of the houses where no one lived with each other. Most people did, that I knew anyway, lived with their first year housemate. So I had to kind of go out and find other people. We have a uni-wide group chat where it's like called housemate hunting or something like that, where you can basically like post about you looking for a housemate. So I found this house that I like to look of like online. I posted that, you know, X, Y, and Z, I'm looking for 2 housemates to fill this 3-bedroom house basically. And a girl who I ended up living with, let's call her Amelia, and her friend messaged me and they were like, oh, we're like obviously pairs, we would want to join your house basically. And I was like, oh, that's great, let's go and look at the house. Long story short, the house was pretty disgusting and it looks nothing like the pictures. One of the rooms was tiny, so we decided against that house. But we'd realized, you know, we'd found a group of 3, so we were like, actually, should we just stick together and like look for more houses? Long story short, we found the house that we ended up living in, but actually her friend, Amelia's friend, dropped out of the house. She decided that she needed to, you know, drop out of uni, and so she was sorry she couldn't like live in the house with us, which we were fine with. She gave us like enough time, so we did manage to find another housemate. Again, we posted on the housemate hunting thing. Lo and behold, we found another housemate. Let's call the other housemate Faith. So yeah, 3 of us, me, Amelia and Faith, lived in this house. I've actually got my notes here because this is a long ass story. So I was really excited to live with 2 girls who seemed really nice, and it would be like a cutesy girly house. Houses are just more, you know, like homely and just, yeah, they're more like intimate, and I thought it would be more like that. That was the problem with ours. I felt like everyone kind of knew each other but not really, because everyone would kind of go into their room and do their own thing, and I was like really excited to live with people and hopefully like really like form a bond in this house. In the beginning I actually thought I'd get on really well with Amelia more. We seem to have quite similar personalities. She wasn't the kind of uni student who likes going out loads and loads, so I felt like Amelia was similar, like in that aspect. Like, she wasn't a party girl, but she was also quite interesting is what I thought. Like, she wasn't, but you know. So Faith was initially like, from the get-go, I kind of realized she was a bit more of a party girl, likes going out, which to be honest I didn't really mind. Like, I don't really care what other people do with their lives, you know. She was a party girl. That's, you know, everyone has their own interests, just like I don't love going clubbing, someone does. So I was perfectly fine with that in the beginning. I didn't mind at all. It actually started off really well. Like, we all really clicked. We'd all sit together in the living room, we'd watch films together, we'd go into each other's room. It's kind of what I wanted. Like, I feel like I lacked in halls, and it was like that in the beginning. Like, it was generally really nice, surprisingly different to what I expected. I actually got on a lot closer with Faith. Amelia, like I said, was, because she's a bit more quiet, she did keep more to herself. Amelia lived in the room downstairs. Me and Faith, our rooms were basically right next to each other, like we shared a wall, so it kind of meant that we just ended up being more close. And because she's quite an outgoing person, so she's very much like very talkative, and she'd come into my room and just like have a chat with me, and we'd have like chats for hours and hours. Yeah, because we were so close, like we'd always literally just go into each other's room, so I was very close to her. After a while, Faith would start to keep to herself, and I think especially because, no, not Faith, Amelia. So actually Faith in the beginning would like say, oh, Amelia's such a bitch, like she'll never leave her room, like she never wants to hang out with us, like whenever we invite her to do things she'll always just like reject it, like why is she such a bitch, like keep it to herself. Faith also had I don't even know what to call her. It was her girlfriend, but I think they broke up, but they were still close. So girlfriend turned ex-girlfriend. I don't know what was going on there, but I know at the beginning they were together, and she would stay at our house a lot. That's coming later. But actually, I think they all went out to a party once when I was like back in London. Faith's girlfriend, let's call her Ellie, actually called Amelia a bitch to her face. Like, it, I don't know, apparently it ended in like some kind of drama, and they were probably all drunk, and Ellie, Faith's girlfriend, said to Amelia, oh, why are you such a bitch all the time? Like, you're such a bitch, or something like that. And Amelia ended up crying and leaving the party or whatever. It was dramatic. I wasn't there. So fast forward a bit, because me and Faith got on quite well, we started actually looking for houses quite early. Like, we started looking way before, I mean, not way before, but before Christmas, definitely. I was going to live with her and two of her friends. Can you fucking imagine if I'd actually ended up signing a contract with them or something, or actually living in that house? Because that would have been a fucking joke. I would have left that house for sure, now that knowing what I know now. It's like instinctive, like something told me this wasn't a right decision to make when we were looking at houses. In the beginning I was really excited, but then I started falling back a bit. I wouldn't be so excited about the houses and stuff, or I'd be like pulling back, because I still wasn't 100% sure about her, which is so weird how like your instinct tells you this stuff. Because even though we were close at that point, something just told me, and I actually sat her down, and I was like, I'm not sure about this housing arrangement. And the reason I said, like, my explanation for it was, I feel like, you know, you girls are kind of outgoing people, like you like going out a lot. I feel like we're very different. Like, even though we really get on, I said this at the time, I was like, I love you as a person, like we really get on, but I just feel like we're quite different, our lifestyles are quite different, and I'm fine with it now. But I can imagine living in a house with 3 other people who enjoy partying a lot, always gonna want prees at the house and stuff, like it might start to like irritate me a little bit. And she was like, oh, like I actually do get that. She was like, she noticed that I was kind of pulling back with the house, but she was like, oh, I really want to live with you, like I feel like we get on so well. So it was just an instinctive thing that told me this isn't going to be a nice arrangement. And little things had started to bother me a little bit, but I was kind of like, oh, I feel like I can deal with it. In hindsight, I couldn't deal with it, but you know. So one of the things that started to bug me a little bit was how much she had, like I said, her girlfriend over. Ellie basically lived with us, especially first term. Like, she was literally there 24/7 first term. She didn't get on with her housemates that she was in a house with, so she was always at ours. Even at Christmas, she literally wrote us, like, she bought us a bottle of Prosecco and wrote us a card, and she was like, thank you so much for letting me like live with you guys. You guys have made my first term so good, because I've been able to stay with you, blah blah blah. And in the beginning, like I said, I didn't mind it too much, because it kind of felt like we were a house of 4, like we all got on, that kind of thing. But obviously if she's there constantly, she's, you know, cooking, using the shower, she's using electricity, that kind of thing. And in the beginning I didn't let it bother me. I was like, oh, that's a bit stingy to think about it like that. But it did kind of annoy me that, like, wow, she is basically using up a lot of our, you know, gas and electric stuff that we're paying for. And our bills were really high at this point. Like, for some reason, our gas and electric bill, it was the gas. Like, our house was constantly freezing. In the winter, when York got fucking cold, like it was snowing and it was so cold, sometimes I'd wear like a jacket inside the house, but the house was still freezing. We barely had the heating on, sorry, because it literally made our bill go through the roof. And even though we were really minimizing how much gas we were using, our bills were still going really high. So it was kind of annoying that we were paying super high bills, and I felt like, oh, do you know what, like there's also an extra person that's here. She didn't contribute anything to the house, considering how much she was at the house and how much, you know, energy and stuff she would have been using. She didn't offer to pay for anything. In fact, I remember when our toilet got blocked. That happened a few times. We had to get the plumber in. It blocked like 4 times, and the first time we kind of managed to sort it out ourselves. The second time we were like, I think we need to get a plumber in, and our estate agents and like landlord made us pay for it. It was £90. I'm pretty sure it was actually her that blocks the toilet, but you know, she didn't even, you know, chip in for that. And that started to annoy me a little bit, especially because she was quite loud as well. You know, when little things are just piling up. I'm not even a confrontational person, to be honest. I really don't like confrontation. I just kind of was dealing with it, even though it was secretly, well, not secretly, but it was like starting to like annoy me a little bit. She was so messy as well, so fucking messy. Like, they just make food and just leave the kitchen in an absolute state and never wash up. Like, that she was just an extra messy person as well, which was again starting to build up and annoy me. It was one of those things, it was just little things that was starting to build up. The fact that, you know, like I said, Faith had a lot of people over and they'd be like very, very loud. Because her room was literally, like I said, right next to mine, like we shared a wall. If she had people in her room, especially Ellie was such a loud person, like she talked so loud and like would sing constantly. It would just be a bit annoying when you're like wanting to sleep or you're wanting to chill or do whatever, and she'd have like people in her room right next to mine and they'd be very, very loud. So because it was happening a lot, it was starting to like build up a little bit, and I was like, oh, this is annoying me, but I'm just going to deal with it, you know. Another thing that annoyed me about Faith was she literally, she was just so irresponsible, like as a person. You know, when people just seem so childish, like she was so much about going out. She would like, you know, hype up going out so much and, you know, plan outfits for like these themed parties she was going to, but she never sort things out. Like, because I was put as lead tenant automatically when we moved in, all the bills and everything was in my name, and we'd already decided before we knew that we wanted to split the bills. We thought, oh, splitting bills will be good because it means everyone has a bit of responsibility, and it means it's actually good for like our credit scores to build. So Amelia was pretty good with that. Like, she took on the water bill and she changed that into her name pretty much immediately. Faith took months and months to get it changed into her name, even though we decided before we even moved in. She was like, okay, I'll take the gas and electric. I said I'd take the internet bill. It didn't really matter how much the bills were because we were gonna, you know, pay it. We used Splitwise, which is an app where you can put the bills in and it kind of works out who owes who money. And I'd keep saying, Faith, will you call them to change it into your name? Because basically what would happen is I wasn't in charge of paying the bill, but because it was still in my name, like under my details, they'd constantly message me, call me, text me, email me. You haven't paid your bill. Your bill's been due for 2 weeks. If you don't pay it immediately, it's gonna affect your credit score. Like, we're gonna have to, you know, report it. So obviously, like, I was panicking. I was like, I don't wanna always constantly be in debt and they're like, you know, chasing me up and it's gonna affect my credit score. So I kept saying to Faith, can you please pay the bill? Like, she knew the date the bill came. I'd always say, you know, Faith, the bill has come in, can you pay it? And she'd be like, oh yeah, I'll pay it as soon as possible. She wouldn't pay it for weeks at a time. And then they'd be threatening me. And I'd be like, Faith, you know, you need to pay the bill. They're threatening me now. And she's like, oh yeah, sorry, I'm gonna sort that out. And she would never sort it out until I'd be like, Faith, you really need to do this now. Just little stuff like that. We were supposed to be submitting meter readings as well. We realized obviously our bill was getting really high. They'd be like, oh, we had to estimate your bill. And we were like, okay, if it's the estimates, maybe we're getting charged loads because they're estimating it way higher than we're actually using. And I remember there was one day where I took it upon myself, even though it wasn't my job, to get the gas reading, and our bill dropped immediately to £40 when we'd been paying like 90, and actually it meant that we'd overpaid them, so they owed us money. But every time I was like, oh, do you remember, Faith, like the last time I submitted the meter readings, it really affected our bill. Can you remember to submit the meter readings? She'd be like, oh yeah, I'll do it. I'd ask her every time, Faith, by the way, have you submitted the meter readings? Yeah, I haven't done it yet. I promise I'll do it like as soon as possible. Cleanliness became a massive problem. That was probably the thing that pissed me off the most. Like, I wouldn't mind taking on some of the duties of, you know, reminding her to pay the bill, or I started to take it upon myself to do some of the meter readings. That annoyed me, but I was like, you know, I can deal with that. But cleanliness is something that matters a lot to me. In fact, when I was like looking for these housemates, my advert or whatever, I literally put that like cleanliness is important to me. And cleanliness was not important to the other two. It was horrendous. Okay, be, you know, an irresponsible, a bit of an ignorant, loud, you know, student. I can deal with that. Like, that's kind of, you know, a lot of students. At least be clean. I wasn't asking for, you know, immaculate cleanliness. I was asking for really basic like hygiene levels, and I didn't even get that. When I tell you how fucking disgusting our house got, like, oh, Jesus Christ. The kitchen was always the worst. People would like cook food and leave bits of food all over the floor. They'd leave their dishes for weeks at a time. Like, I'm not exaggerating, weeks. Multiple weeks. That's disgusting. When there's food in it, it's gonna get gross and it's gonna get moldy. Like, the bins would just overflow. People would like spill things on the floor and not mop it up. Like, and I'd be stepping in, you know, bits of tea. People would like put yogurt, you know, the lids of the yogurt on the floor. It would just, yeah, leave yogurt marks all over the floor. There was one point where like I moved the bin and I was cleaning the floor and there was like mould growing under the bin. Like, the floor was absolutely disgusting. And this is something we talked about in the beginning complaining as well. Like in the beginning, I feel like when everyone's trying to be nice with each other, we were always like, yeah, the floor always gets so gross, like we should clean that, like we should keep on top of that. We actually decided we were gonna have a rota, a cleaning rota, which is another thing that pissed me off. And we were all happy to agree on that. We all agreed on a rota. And I realized I was doing the rota and no one else was. So I'd, you know, it would be my week to do the kitchen, the bathroom, whatever. And I'd do that like pretty much at the beginning of the week or as soon as possible. And I noticed throughout the week that other jobs hadn't been done. And I was like, okay, so no one else is doing those other jobs. So I'd message them and be like, oh, by the way, is the rota still going? Like, are you still going to clean the kitchen? Blah, blah, blah. Have you cleaned the kitchen yet? And they'd be like, oh, no, sorry, I've not had the chance to yet. I'll do it as soon as possible. You know, no one would do it. They would literally like watch me do my cleaning and just, you know, think it was okay not to do theirs. And at least like tell me like, you know what, I feel like the rota's not gonna work, like I can't be bothered to clean it or whatever. Don't watch me keep cleaning it week after week after week and just not do it yourself. Like that's just selfish and unfair, do you know what I mean? Like I took it upon myself to sometimes clean the rest of it even though it wasn't my job, but I'd rather clean it than live in a filthy mess, do you know what I mean? After I realised no one was in the rota, I messaged about it in the group chat and I was like, guys, the house is getting really filthy, like I can't keep on top of it myself. We agreed on a rota and it seems very clear that I'm the only one doing the rota, like what's going on with that? I feel like if we can't keep on top of the cleaning, we're gonna have to get like hire a cleaner or something because we can't live in like a filthy mess. Amelia, this is what annoyed me so much about Amelia, is that she'd basically keep to herself and not say anything. She was very like, you know, absent, but then anytime she would just chime up and be so defensive and angry and it's like, bitch, what the hell? And I feel like, I'm not gonna lie, she wasn't the one making most of the mess, it was actually Faith. Like she was the messier one, I'd say, definitely. But it was Amelia who took it upon herself to be so defensive. She was like, if you felt like you wanted squeaky clean floors and a super shiny house, then you should have lived in Student Castle or something like that. And Student Castle is like, they're basically a bit like halls, but they're very like fancy accommodation. Usually it's like 150 to 200 pounds a week. She was basically making a dig at me like, you know, if you wanted to keep it that clean, then you should have like lived in a fancier place. And I was just like, okay, hold up, Amelia. I'm not asking you for super shiny, glossy floors. Like, I'm just saying I don't want an ecosystem on the floor. There is literally stuff growing on the floors. People have cut up food, dropped food all over the floor. There is mould under the bin. You know, there are dishes which are growing mould. There are dishes in the living room growing mould. I'm not, you know, asking for over the top cleanliness. I'm asking for basic, you know, basic hygiene, like wash your dishes within a few days at least. And she was like, you're acting like our house is the most disgusting. Like I've seen other student houses which are way worse than ours. Since when does that make it all right? Like I've seen other student houses, like when I was like viewing houses, and some of them were filthy, like squalor. So telling me ours is better than those isn't really much consolation, considering some of them, you know, have like mice and animals and insects and mold growing everywhere because the students are that disgusting. You don't have to be dirty if you're a student. She said something like, oh, I've got a dissertation to write or something like that. You basically never went to uni. She literally never went to uni. I know you're just sat in your room doing nothing. Like you've said it to me before that you just sit in your room and watch films and watch whatever, like do your own thing. So it's not like you're actually doing your work. And you know, all I'm asking you is to, you know, keep things clean. Just clean up after yourself a little. I'm not asking for, you know, shiny clean floors, but you know, they thought I was just being the most dramatic bitch asking for, you know, there not to be things growing on our floor and growing in our kitchen. But I don't want to be living in a house filled with, like, our house constantly stank, like the fridge always stank, because especially Faith would never clear out like her food that went off. A lot of the time she wasn't in the house because she was going to this person's house, staying over this person's house, so she wouldn't clear things in her fridge and things would just get moldy and like gross and they'd stink. There was one time where she must have left some kind of like cheesy, like she'd probably made some like cheesy sauce or something and she'd filled it with water, like, you know, to soak the pan. Yeah, she'd left those dishes there for weeks and there was this horrible stench. Like I was like, what is this smell? This smells like something is dead. Like I was thinking like a rat had died behind one of our cupboards or something. It was that bad. Like it smelled like something was rotting. Our kitchen window was open at some point. I was like, maybe it's coming from outside. Like I was literally going around like a crazy person, like sniffing the whole of the kitchen. I was like, what is this smell? I started sniffing around the sink and I realized what it was. It was that cheesy whatever sauce she'd left, because obviously dairy goes off really badly. It had gotten all like clotted and like disgusting. Me and Amelia were the only ones in the house at this point, and both of us had been talking about it. We were like, what is this smell? Like when I eventually found out, I was like, oh, guess what, Amelia, I figured out what the smell is. It's that pot that Faith has left for like weeks. And she was like, oh my god, like she needs to clean that up. What the hell, like that fucking smells. And we were both like, yeah, that fucking smells. She obviously didn't say anything to Faith. I took it upon myself and I typed in the group chat. I was like, Faith, you know, your dishes have been hit out for weeks now. We've noticed a horrible smell in the house and it's coming from, you know, that pot. Like, do you think you could come and wash them up? Because I wasn't touching that shit. Like, that shit is the kind of shit you get ill from. It was that disgusting. She was like, oh my god, yeah, sorry, I'll come and clean it up. It took her like 2 days to end up cleaning that up, even though we'd said something. Like, she did come back to the house like the next day and she left again. And even Amelia was like, oh, what the hell, like when she just came in the house I thought she was gonna clean it up. When is she gonna clean it up? It really stinks. And I was like, yeah, I know, right? So then Faith eventually cleaned it up and yeah, that was that. But she still left dishes for weeks on end. Another thing that annoyed me is her, oh my god, so her tampons. Bathrooms are a place where you're naked, you're vulnerable, you go there to get clean, so that shouldn't be a place that gets filthy. A lot of the time the sink would just be absolutely filthy. Like, they'd leave like spit, toothpaste stains in the sink. I'd always have to like clean that shit up myself because I didn't want to be brushing my teeth seeing other people's spit in the sink. And when Faith and her girlfriend, who, you know, took it upon herself to live in our house, would get their period, take out their tampons, like the bloody soaked used tampon, and just leave it in the bin. Obviously I know you throw tampons in the bin, but not wrapped up in tissue or anything, just like the bloody exposed tampon, just right, and the bin was right next to the toilet, so I'd sit on the toilet and just see like used bloody tampons. And obviously I use tampons myself, but if I was on my period, you know, you wrap that shit up, you're living with other people don't want to see your bloody tampon. It's not even like she would even do that and then, you know, take out the bin after, like, you know, maybe after her period was up. She would never empty out the bin, so the bin would just get full of bloody tampons. I'm the one who always had to like get a glove on and like tie up the bin and take it outside because, you know, I don't want a tampon that's full of blood sat in the bin in the bathroom for like 3 weeks. Like, that's not hygienic. She would never ever clean out bins. Like, I don't think she took out a single bin or took out a single, you know, recycling box. It was like in boxes, so you'd have to take the box to the outside of the house and then bring the box back in after they'd taken the recycling. What got on my absolute nerve is you would never bother to take out the recycling, but at the very least, if someone else has taken it upon themselves to take the recycling out, when you're coming in and you see the empty box, at least bring that in. No, she'd expect someone to take out the recycling and also to bring back the box back in, even though she'd come into the house, in and out of the house constantly. In and out of the house just reminded me she never locked our door. In London, I feel like it's a common thing to have the doors like Yale locks, which kind of lock after you. You don't need to lock it up. But our door was basically like a normal house door where if you closed it and you didn't lock it up, it was just a door that you could just, someone could just turn the handle and come in. And she would never ever lock it. Like, there would be times where I'd be leaving the house and I'd open the door and it wouldn't be locked. So, you know, she'd be out and she would leave us vulnerable to, you know, anyone who could walk into the house at any time. And that was something that really annoyed my mum as well, because my mum is like really overprotective. So she was like, do you know what, Moesha, she can be filthy, she can be messy, but she's putting your like safety at risk. Like, she's literally jeopardizing your safety. There was one time she literally left the door actually wide open as well. I just remember hearing really loud noise from downstairs and I was like, what the hell? Like, I could hear the noise from outside so loudly because she'd left our door wide open. Even though I'd reminded her several times to remember to lock it, she never did. So I had to take it upon myself to remember to go and lock it after her because, you know, I don't want a random stranger walking into my house. Right, so that was just the general scenario that was happening in our house at the time and why I was just very unhappy living there. But there came like a main drama that happened. I'm so like confused about how long this video is. I feel like it's going to be way too long to even having one video, so I'm gonna have to think about it when I'm editing to see if I'm gonna have to split it or whatever. So there may be like part 1 or part 2.